The earliest known descriptions of cancer was during the ancient Egyptian civilization, where citations of the disease were found written on papyrus. Hippocrates, who is referred to as the father of science, described many types of cancer, referring to them by the term carcinos, the Greek word for crab. Throughout the ages, more and numerous types of cancer were discovered and scientifically researched. Centuries later, a disparate form of cancer presented itself to the world, one that was radically different from any form seen till date. That cancer is none other than radical feminism.
We need to kill all men. I am sick of being a baby factory that produces more men that will just, in the future, subjugate me. So the only answer to that is to kill male babies and just kill any man that you see, like in the street.
But feminism isn't a new type of cancer by any means. It used to be an ideology that advocated for women's rights and gender equality. It was a righteous movement for women to fight back oppression during the colonial ages. Sadly, today's version of the ideology has been systematically mutated into radicalism. Today, I'm going to run you through the different strategies, agendas, and procedures used by feminists to perpetrate their radical ideology. Before I get started, whenever I use the word feminist in this video, I'm referring to the radical ones, because there remains a tiny percentage of feminists that actually focus on women empowerment without dragging men into their hate politics. Anyways, this is going to be a long video, so
brace yourselves.
The first strategy of feminists is to get triggered for absolutely no reason. Similar to liberal social justice warriors, being triggered over the smallest and most insignificant of things is a prerequisite to being a feminist.
You take my picture?
Yeah.
You want my name?
Yeah, sure.
It's humongous.
Okay.
12 seconds later.
Humongous what? Is that sexual harassment? Is that what you just did when you said that to me?
What, humongous?
Why would you say that to me?
Yes, but my name.
20 minutes later.
This person just spoke to me in a sexually harassing way.
I did not.
Yeah, he did. He said, do you know what my name is? And I said, what? And he said, humongous.
It's gonna be on YouTube. Don't fucking say hello to me, bitch. Don't fucking say hello. I don't play that sexual harassment shit. Let me get your address. Bitch, you don't fucking say hi to strange women you don't know, bitch. 38492. Bitch, you shouldn't have been sexually harassing me. I can call the cops on you for that.
Good.
Fat funky motherfucker. Who the fuck you think you're talking to? Don't fucking say hello to me.
The second strategy, which also sits at the heart of feminism, is to simply blame men for everything. More specifically, straight white men.
You owe me an apology. I have never cheated in my life. I have a daughter and I stand what's right for her and I've never cheated. And you owe me an apology. You are the liar. And you stole a point from me. You're a thief too.
Code violation, verbal abuse, gang penalty, Mrs. Williams.
No, I don't know the risk because if I say a simple thing, a thief because he stole a point from me, that does not make there are men out here that do lot worse because I'm a woman. Because I'm a woman, you're gonna take this away from me?
Lily Singh, a man-hating feminist and torchbearer of feminism on YouTube, blamed men for not being paid enough on YouTube to be featured in Forbes' top 10 highest YouTubers list. Despite the fact that YouTube's CEO is a woman, and despite the fact that AdSense pays a content creator based on the number and type of ads that run on a video, not because of gender. Yet she ignored all these obvious factors to blame men for not earning as much as she wanted to. So what happens if a feminist is in a situation that doesn't involve a man, hence they aren't able to blame men? Well, they simply shift blame to something else.
There I was thinking it was just me that had a problem, but it turns out it's the air conditioning that's sexist.
I know. So many women in our office have the exact same problem. You know, we just sit there absolutely freezing at our desks trying to type. You can probably tell I've got a cold right now, which I blame all on the AC. Often in offices, it is men who control temperatures. You know, that's just something I've found anecdotally. And because majority of the men in offices seem to be absolutely fine with the temperatures, you know, women kind of just sit there on the corner feeling absolutely frozen.
The destruction of this scale is dedicated to all of the women whose lives have been ruined and ruled by it. I'm tired of you stealing my life. I'm tired of you making me feel if I'm good or bad. I'm tired of you deciding how my day is. No more of you deciding my life.
Even the vocabulary of feminists consists of words that vilify the male gender. Their favorite words, which I like to categorize as the 3 M's, are misogynist, male privilege, and toxic masculinity. Of course, there are variations like white privilege because, as mentioned earlier, feminists hate white men with a vengeance. And then there's also a variation like thin privilege because feminists also hate people who are thin.
Thin privilege. Now, it's not a mythical creature or something made up.
To be fair though, I would say that this term is actually entirely made up. It's not too dissimilar to things like white privilege and male privilege, which are also made up.
You're thin, you have a certain privilege. The everyday tasks that a thinner person can take for granted.
The third strategy of feminists is to consciously ignore facts, data, statistics, and research to manufacture their anti-men propaganda. To help elucidate this strategy, I'm going to take 2 prominent examples. The first example of their propaganda created as a result of their ignorance is the gender wage gap myth. This myth has been disproved so many times, including by women themselves.
If for the same work women only make 77 cents for every dollar a man makes, why don't businesses hire only women? Wages are the biggest expense for most businesses, so hiring only women would reduce costs by nearly 1/4, and that would go right to the bottom line. Don't businesses want to be profitable? Or are they really just bad at math? Well, actually, it's the feminists, celebrities, and politicians spreading this wage gap myth who have the math problem.
The wage gap is simply the average earnings of men and women working full-time. It does not count for different job positions, hours worked, or different jobs. It has nothing to do with the same job. It has nothing to do with discrimination.
The 77 cents on the dollar statistic is calculated by dividing the median earnings of all women working full-time by the median earnings of all men working full-time. But these calculations don't reveal a gender wage injustice, because they don't take into account occupation, position, education, or hours worked per week. Even a study by the American Association of University Women, a feminist organization, shows that the actual wage gap shrinks to only 6.6 cents when you factor in different choices men and women make. The small wage gap that does exist has nothing to do with paying women less, let alone with sexism. It has to do with differences in individual career choices that men and women make.
The second example is how feminists twisted the phrase "boys will be boys" and distorted the connotations entirely.
In the last 2 weeks, Australian brand Peter Alexander has come under fire for stocking its shelves with a t-shirt that reads "Boys will be boys," because, you know, what else would boys be? Now, after a few people complained, the brand ended up removing the shirts from their stores and then issued an apology. One of the women who first complained said that the shirts were sexist and that they weren't appropriate. Yes, really, sexist.
Feminists have reconstructed this phrase into "boys will be held accountable for their actions." This logic speaks for itself and displays the hostility of feminists in full swing.
It is incredibly interesting to me that somebody would take a phrase like that, an innocent phrase, a phrase that doesn't mean anything offensive, and turn it into something ugly. Yeah, it's sexist to say that boys will be boys because, you know, boys. We're talking about men, therefore it's sexist. Yeah, Sydney, it's sexist because any mention of men makes it sexist. Saying that boys will be boys is genuinely a harmless sentiment. The only reason that it's been twisted and changed in recent times is because women have attributed something to it that's not correct. Like, boys will be boys means boys will be rapists, boys will be murderers, boys will be violent.
Recently, Gillette marketed this very same feminist propaganda, for which they received a tsunami of backlash, and rightfully so. The single biggest threat to feminists isn't actually men, but women. Because what could be worse for feminists than being shut down by those of their own gender?
We've got quite a large pay dispute happening with our Australian women's soccer team at the moment. Is it frustrating for you as someone who's so prominent in your sport? And we heard you say on the Ellen show the other day you are the richest fighter in UFC, that sort of thing is still going on?
I think that how much you get paid should have something to do with how much money you bring in. I'm the highest paid fighter not because Dana and Lorenzo wanted to do something nice for the ladies. They do it because I bring in the highest numbers. They do it because I make them the most money. And I think that the money that they make should be proportionate to the money that they bring in.
Women condemning feminism is the biggest nightmare to feminists. So much so that they engage in attacking the women that dare to speak out against feminism, which also happens to be their third strategy.
Today we're going to explore feminism and the women who hate it. Wait, that can't be right. Oh, it is. Is that a vagina? Is this why you got me to film here?
This week, the hashtag, Tumblr and Facebook page Women Against Feminism has gone viral, holding up handwritten signs explaining why they're against feminism.
And surprisingly, they're really ill-informed. I was going to say dumb, but as a journalist, I have to remain impartial.
I want to move over into social commentary, speaking about the hypocrisy that is social justice warriors and extreme third wave feminists, which is something that I've put off speaking about for a really long time now, mainly out of fear.
So, after all the abusive messages I got last week from feminists, it made me realize that I too want to be a feminist. I'm just kidding, that is never gonna happen.
This is an image of a feminist in the 19th century. And this is a clip of a feminist in 2017.
Candace Owens is one of the many women who repeatedly expose the hypocrisy of feminism and is constantly attacked by feminists in doing so.
But Candace, feminism is for everybody. Nope. Feminism is for people that think sticking your head in a hat shaped like a vagina deems you an intellectual. Join the movement. There you can argue about fake issues, like the wage gap, and make funny faces like, huh? When somebody suggests that you maybe get a job outside of fashion if you want to make as much as somebody who works for Goldman Sachs. Huh? No, but seriously. If you guys want to play a fun game, and next time a woman talks to you about the wage gap, ask her what IBIDA stands for.
To counter the rise of women condemning feminism, feminists have brainwashed gullible men into advocating their ideology.
We want to try and galvanize as many men and boys as possible to be advocates for change.
5 points from Gryffindor.
Maternal love is the love that's going to change the future of mankind. So we'd like you to look
we like to say people kind, not necessarily mankind, because it's more inclusive.
There we go, exactly.
They worry that they can't further their cult now that so many women are exposing its double standards. But more importantly, why do some men even bother taking up feminism at all when they know that the very principles of feminism go against the male gender? Because politics. The next 4 strategies function synonymously with each other, starting with the 5th strategy.
They parade around in anatomical hats and I Heart Abortion t-shirts. They skip work to show their economic worth. They tell other women they're an embarrassment to the female gender for simply holding differing political views. What's different about the 2017 brand of feminism is its complete and unashamed embrace of every part of the liberal ideology. Now, in order to be a feminist, you not only have to be pro-choice and anti-patriarchy, you also have to embrace the LGBT agenda, fully support Planned Parenthood, and hate Donald Trump. Feminism has embraced a doctrine that attempts to fit women into an ideological mold, which is ironic considering that's the very thing they say they're fighting against. A culture that pigeonholes women into thinking and acting in a way that's deemed acceptable by society. I could make a long list of the additional inconsistencies of third-wave feminism, from their silence on the oppression of Islam and Sharia law to their embrace of celebrities whose lyrics, words, and actions do anything but elevate women. But you get the picture. Third-wave feminism isn't progress, it's hypocrisy.
Remember the first strategy? Liberals have a problem with everything in this world and never fail to get triggered or offended by any little thing. The entire world knows that liberals are some of the biggest hypocrites that exist on this planet.
Please मेरी सांस को पे रोक रखिए. Diwali पे पटाखे skip कीजिए. Let Diwali be about lights and laddus and love and not pollution. Reduce the use of firecrackers so that you all, asthmatics like me and all the animals out there, everyone can enjoy the festival too.
Feminists are no less masters of hypocrisy themselves.
Helps you become a better person, and especially for, I'm not being sexist, but for guys especially, it's a good way to train themselves, make them more responsible, and then when they become heads of their own family.
But when asked if they would volunteer to spend 2 years in the army, only 9.3% of the women polled, or about 1 in 10, said they would.
Why would you want women to serve national, especially in Singapore? The chances of us having even going to war is kind of low, so I don't see the point of it.
Farhan Akhtar, a pioneer of liberal feminism, blamed the entire male gender during the Me Too movement. The same Farhan Akhtar who remained silent when his best friend was accused of sexual misconduct and didn't speak out all these years. Because they're liberal, it's in their primary agenda to hate on the right wing. Feminists in the West blindly hate Donald Trump. Synonymously, feminists in India hate Narendra Modi. Feminists also escalate the delusions that the entire right wing is anti-women, because apparently being anti-feminist automatically means that you're anti-women. Liberals, SJWs and feminists are also known to have a lust for Islam. After every Islamic terrorist attack that takes place, liberals will immediately remind the entire world that Islam is a religion of peace. Being the double-faced propagandists that feminists are, they remain completely silent when it comes to Sharia law and the intolerable living conditions it has created for Muslim women ever since its inception.
Have women's rights or Islam?
Why are you not asking Muslim women about this? Why are you asking?
Well, you don't see a whole lot here, do you? Their husbands probably didn't let them come.
Oh my God.
Sharia law, antithetical or not compatible with feminism.
I just don't think in today's world you can ask people if they would rather women's rights or Islam.
Why not?
Well,
the sixth strategy of feminists is to defend Sharia law come what may.
People talk about Islam without knowing anything about it, and they're willing to completely negate any of my rights as a human being, as a woman, as a person with agency, simply because they have an idea about what my faith is about. Excuse me, Islam to me is the most feminist religion. Right? We got equal rights well before the Europeans. We don't take our husbands' last names because we ain't their property. Right? We were given the right to own land.
The seventh strategy is somewhat exclusive to secular Indian feminists, but it's worth categorizing for its indecency and hypocrisy nonetheless. In continuation of their previous strategy, feminists have no problem calling the hijab as empowerment, yet they call the Ghungat as oppression and patriarchy. Not only that, but feminists claim that Hindu goddesses are controlled by men and that worshipping Hindu goddesses is against women empowerment. When Section 377 was decriminalized in India, it was a huge victory for liberals and feminists throughout the country. Yet instead of celebrating it, they used this opportunity to promote their hatred for the Hindu nationalist government.
No, 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 no.
Tanmay Bhatt and his male feminist friends had the nerve to call the Hindu festival of Raksha Bandhan as a patriarchy. Yet the very same so-called feminist Tanmay Bhatt was in complete knowledge of the sexual misconduct committed by his friend Utsav Chakrabarti, who sexually harassed a 17-year-old girl for years. The penultimate strategy of feminists is the most serious of them all and results in destroying the lives of innocent men. This strategy can range from simple accusations to false allegations.
This guy walked into the office when I was there, and now here he is parked out here, right? Stop stalking me, right? Don't ever stalk me again.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
About what?
Don't ever stalk me again.
Who's stalking you about
you? Laugh some more. Do it.
You're crazy.
Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Say to the camera that you're not stalking me.
I am not stalking you. I don't even know who you are.
Is that right?
Now, coming back to sexual assault allegations, if you've been following the news at all recently, you probably would have heard that in relation to Brett Kavanaugh, one of the women who said that he raped her multiple times came out and said that she made it all up and that she'd actually never even met the guy. This is where the whole believe women thing really just starts to fall in a heap, which surprises approximately none of us. So what we have so far in this video is a woman who is beating herself up with a hammer so that she can realistically probably accuse a man of beating her, and a Supreme Court justice who was falsely accused of rape and had his life destroyed.
Me Too was a crucial movement for women to come forward with their horrifying experiences of being sexually harassed. It was a movement that gave them confidence to face their perpetrators and acted as a platform that allowed for others to support them. Yet feminists found a way to ruin such an important movement like this by perpetrating false allegations. Many feminists in the West have been jailed for misusing Me Too to create false stories. But even before the Me Too movement, feminists have single-handedly destroyed the lives of men through false allegations. One of the most heartbreaking stories is of Sarabjit Singh, whose life was destroyed by Jasleen Kaur. Not only are feminists destroying the lives of men, but they're also making it difficult for the women who are sexually harassed and want to come forward with their stories. Thanks to the false allegations by feminists, it becomes difficult for men to support women who are actually harassed.
15% of these trivial or false restraining orders target women, meaning that 85% of them target men. That's a lot of men. Every year, on average, there are about 700,000 false domestic violence charges put against people. That is a lot of false charges, like a lot of false charges. And the worst part about it is you have men who are being hauled off to prison for doing nothing, for actually doing nothing.
Feminists love to proclaim that sexual violence and everything else associated with it happens exclusively to women. And when cases emerge where women are found to be guilty of sexual assault on men, feminists just pretend like nothing happened.
A woman rapes a man, and apparently nobody wants to actually call a spade and call it rape. I don't profess to have all the answers when it comes to this topic, but I'd really like to know why it is that we downplay female perpetrated violence. Is it because it doesn't fit into the male perpetrator, female victim paradigm? Or is it because society feels a need to shield women from criticism? We place an awful lot of emphasis on talking about the experiences of women when it comes to violent acts like domestic violence and rape. In fact, we mostly only talk about women when it comes to these situations, and we only talk about women as the universal victim and men as the universal perpetrator. I mean, and I keep saying this, and apparently it just makes people really mad, but as far as I'm concerned, violence doesn't have a gender. And as long as we're going to talk about violence and talk about violent acts and try to get around violent acts, maybe we need to evaluate the fact that we are not thinking about the things that women do and the things that men do in the same way.
The final strategy and the last resort of feminists when every other strategy fails is to incite violence.
It's a white fucking privileged racist fucking male that doesn't stand for women's rights. Get the fuck out of here, fucking dipshit, and get that camera out of my face, either. Fuckwit.
I want to call the police.
Fuck you. Stop me!
Oh, we should film it.
Now that I've explained all the strategies, it's important for the young and impressionable girls watching this to realize that radical feminism is far from the solution to gender equality. There's no denying that misogyny exists and that most of the perpetrators of sexual violence are men. But attacking all boys and downplaying the entire male gender is only doing more harm than good, because it drives away the men and boys who genuinely want to help and alienates the ones that are already actively doing so. If feminism really was about gender equality, then why would so many women condemn and speak against feminism? Because modern feminism isn't inclusive. It never was, because its implications could not be more indifferent towards men. Thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed this insightful analysis of the radical feminist ideology, then do share this video with your friends and family to spread awareness.